Will you have an NFT with those fries? Okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but NFTs are coming to brick-and-mortar retail. We have the story coming up next on For Immediate Release. Another fine podcast from the FIR Podcast Network.
This is For Immediate Release, the podcast for communicators.
Welcome to another For Immediate Release short edition podcast. This is Neville Hobson in the UK.
And this is Shell Holtz in the US.
And we are going to be talking about NFTs again, as we've talked about before on For Immediate Release, this time with a bit of a difference. We have an example of a major department store, a big retailer in the UK, and what they're planning to do with NFTs to broaden out the market and bring it to the masses. So NFTs, it's hard for many people, I think, to really get a handle around all of this. There's so much hype. There's news stories every second about something going on, typically in the art market. And it's the kind of stories that are attracting headlines because they're big numbers being mentioned in terms of money. So get a sense of where we're at with this. Markets Insider has a great story today, or a report really, on the size of the market, $41 billion for artworks sold through auction houses and others. So it's the art area is where that number's coming from. Because I have to say, Shell, I've seen lots of different numbers saying the market value size. Either way, it's big, 41 billion in 2021 compared to the conventional art market of 50 billion the year before. So it's rocketed in value terms just like that. But to many people, it's still a mystery. It's still something that is hard to believe what on earth is going on, never mind understand it. Well, we got something here that I think is most interesting. That is this move I mentioned earlier of a department store, Selfridges in London, a big store that is planning to sell NFTs and digital fashion at its Oxford Street store in London, the big flagship store. So they say it's bringing digital goods to real life shopping and broadening accessibility to it. So the blending of this is launching as part of a pop-up that will feature artwork by Victor Vasarely and new physical pieces from designer brand Paco Rabanne. The NFTs can be purchased via an in-store digital screen using a traditional credit card. That will include digital versions of the first dresses designed by Paco Rabanne. That payment thing's quite interesting because typically you're going to have to set up wallets, deal with cryptocurrencies and all that. This takes it away from that entirely. The in-store pop-up is designed to make these as familiar as shopping for clothing in a store. That is what Jason Attard, the founder and CEO of Substance, the NFT platform that's working on the project, that's what he says. The ability to purchase NFTs by credit card alone can make the technology more accessible. Most other NFT purchases require registration on a specific auction site or marketplace in cryptocurrency. When a customer purchases the NFT, Substance automatically creates an NFT wallet for them where the NFT is saved. Selfridges project is likely to introduce new customers to the world of NFTs, Attard says. If you remove the words NFT, crypto, and blockchain, you just have the experience, he says. Even when you pay at a normal till, you also don't know how it operates. The project also includes a virtual environment in metaverse platform Decentraland, in which people can interact with patterns inspired by Vasarely, whose work feels contemporary today. Attard says that Selfridges and Sebastian Maines, their executive buying and merchandising director, were particularly thoughtful in understanding the opportunities in the space and developing a long-term strategy. It's really important to understand the space and understand what is possible in retail and how NFTs transform the experience of fashion. So here we're at literally, I think, the ground floor of something really interesting with NFTs. After all that we've been reading and hearing in art, digital artworks, Beeple's 60 million piece, that was a spark of interest in all of this. Now we've got something at a different level, I think, Shell. This is fascinating. I would even actually go into London just to try that and see what happens. I mean, go into the store, pick up some clothing, take it to the till, and buy an NFT along with my new shirt or whatever it might be. This, they think, is really going to pique interest, level it out to a wider audience, even though it's at the high end of retail. This is luxury fashion we're talking about for now. but they own other stores too, and others are interested in these developments, paying a lot of attention to all of this. So this could be big deal in terms of bringing this kind of experience of NFTs, the involvement, the buying of them, into the wider retail area eventually. But it's starting with this. They're not the only game in town in retail, mind you, with all of this, but this is big in terms of reaching the mass market. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I'd love to come to London and go take a look at it myself. I only have to go as far as Los Angeles, though, which is about an hour flight from here. That's where Fred Siegel is doing this. Fred Siegel has launched a NFT in the store, in the Brick-and-Mortar. It's in real life collectibles, limited edition apparel, and gaming hardware. Visiting customers can use cryptocurrency to purchase virtual products, including NFT artwork and digital skins online via Coinbase. They're working on allowing cryptocurrency also to be used just to buy stuff in their store. Their CEO says the idea of being involved in having a Fred Siegel store in the Web3 world makes sense because we're always a place showing things that are really cool. They're not alone. Dolce & Gabbana staged an NFT installation in one of its flagship stores in New York, and Rebecca Minkoff, which is always on the leading edge of this stuff, held an NFT exhibition for New York Fashion Week. So it seems like fashion is the entry point for NFTs in retail for the masses. And you said this is not for the low end, just a consumer walk in and buy 3 pairs of underwear type of store. But it wouldn't surprise me to see this in Walmart at some point. I did see that Walmart has bought 7 patents related to Web3. So at some point, they're going to go big on this, and I can certainly see them and others.
Yeah.
And what this says to me is all the skeptics out there are wrong. It may not be a physical asset. You may only own the token that points to the asset on a website, but people are willing to pay for this, which means it has value.
Yeah, that's a good point you're making there. It is the link, as it were. But that's where I think this I like, because it's glossing over all of that kind of techno detail. And that's actually important techno detail, going to what actually have you purchased. But what we're seeing at the moment, of course, is that kind of language is front and center when you're talking about NFTs. Well, you're actually just buying a token. It's only a point. It's not the real thing, blah, blah. So this is not dealing with any of that. And I think it will broaden the appeal of this to people who haven't understood this really, because they've been completely submersed in all this techno talk. It's interesting what you just mentioned, because I did read another story that kind of related to that point about a group of people who bought a book, an early novel, an early Dune copy by the original author, and said they now own the copyright. And they spent something like, I think it was 23 million or something like this. That's 64 million, if I recall. They don't own the copyright. That's the whole point. Been quite a bit of discussion online. They do not own the copyright. So the plans they have will need permissions. So you've got that to navigate. This looks, I think, as a first move in retail, along with the other ones you mentioned, which, by the way, this story is big in Vogue Business, is where I saw it. They also talk about the one you mentioned, Shell. So this, though, is interesting from Selfridges. They're an early adopter of new technologies, according to Vogue, including a partnership with emerging designer Charlie Cohen in October that included access to a virtual environment and multiple augmented reality installations. So they're venturing quite large into an area that is likely to play a big role in future in a metaverse somewhere. No one really knows. But this is a big step forward in terms of what's going on. So others are looking at this, you can be sure of that. And there's also other activity going on. News story a little while ago before we started recording this, that Meta, the parent of Facebook, is looking themselves to launch an NFT marketplace soon, allowing users of Facebook to create and display NFTs in their profiles, along with a prototype feature for minting tokens in the pipeline. There's a phrase that the average retailer, shopper, and Selfridges is going to be shielded from, I think, for the time being. But the point with Selfridges, though, I think, is that you've got a mainstream retailer, certainly in the UK, that is doing something that is got attention in describing it in general terms in the mainstream media, that is going to pique interest in some people. And this is the first step. The example you mentioned of Walmart and the underwear, that leads from what I mentioned about the 3-pack you buy at Marks & Spencer, underpants, for instance. It'll get there, I feel pretty sure. Imagine the thrill. Imagine the thrill of having real underpants and an NFT.
Oh, I used to work for Mattel. Imagine getting the NFT of a Hot Wheel that you have something that the Larry Wood, one of the original creators of Hot Wheels, did. Maybe one of his renderings, artwork. There's so much potential out there. And you can appeal to niche fan bases. I like basketball well enough, but I'm not a big enough fan to buy a Top Shot video clip. But there are other things. I'd buy an NFT from the Dodgers, and I think they're making them available. So, it's coming to a niche near you.
It is. And be sure, dear listeners, we shall be talking about this on For Immediate Release, the long edition of the show, in an edition soon. And no doubt there'll be other opportunities for us. But for now, this is a quick look at a new venture with NFTs in retail. And, well, I think we agree. We think this is a starter of something that's going to be quite big.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will be a 30 for this edition of For Immediate Release.